Nintendo stuff. Nintendo stuff. There we go. I don't know why that took me 3 attempts to do, but welcome to episode 50 of Nintendo stuff. Wow, Logan, can you believe we're here?
Yeah, we've stuck it out, man. I think about like all the podcasts that we've either attempted before or other people have started and end after like a few episodes, and the fact that we've gone on for over 50, and obviously we've done more than 50 podcasts,
Or
given that,
yeah.
we had another one, we have another one that it split off from, and this became a more frequent one. So I think it's impressive that we've kept up for this long.
Like if between you and I have done over 100 podcasts together,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is crazy. Um, it's kind of mind-boggling to me, like how far this has come over time,
Mm-hmm.
and this will be one of the last podcasts that's actually in this format. We've only got a few more.
Oh yeah, yeah. Only a handful more until we get to do it in person, like weekly. So
Over at the old table, it'll be a really good time.
that'll be good. Um, I think it's one thing I'll say. It's a lot of times I'll get so caught up in the form of something before I get to doing something. But I think what this is a testament to is that a lot of times it's better to just do than it is to worry about how it's going to turn out. Because, one, I think we're better at podcasting than we were, when we started like over 100 episodes ago of various podcasts.
Absolutely.
And then obviously the actual format has gotten prettier, and the production value has, as things have gone on, we just, refine it a little bit here, refine it a little bit there. Um, yeah. So it feels good to be able to do something every week. Um, you know, Especially with how monotonous things can get. So
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
always a point of I don't know, encouragement. It's a fun thing to do. I'm glad to have been doing this with you for as long as we have.
As am I. Yeah. It's crazy. Like we started this last February, um, and not even Nintendo stuff, because this, like you said, is the second iteration of podcasts under the Break Room Arcade banner. Third,
Mm.
actually. I forgot about By the Water Cooler, which I think
Uh-huh.
those episodes are still available on the channel somewhere.
Yeah, you can go all the way back. I think our most viewed one, most listened one was the one about Breath of the Wild before we even knew the name. I'm pretty sure. Um, Maybe they had revealed the name at
I
that
think we
point.
had the name by that point.
Yeah, it's all the way back in 2016.
Yeah, I remember we talked about shrines and what that could all be about, and yeah, that episode really took off for us. But we've grown in lots of other ways too, specifically in our community.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of faces that come around here pretty frequently, listening to the show, hanging out with us. It's really awesome that you guys do that. Uh, are there any standout memories for you over the last 50 episodes? Or maybe even in the
Um,
last, like, year and a half of just the Break Room Arcade?
yeah, I would say probably I didn't anticipate that we'd have some of the guests that we've had on. We had Sean Chiplock, who does some voices in Breath of the Wild and some other anime. We have made connections with Roger of Roger's Base, and that has been a huge blessing and a great experience, a great person to have gotten to know. Um,
Absolutely.
so I think I think just the fact that we've made some of the connections that we have has been, one of the big things for me.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. Um, though if I were to isolate maybe like a specific incident, I think just the entire experience at E3, getting to hang out with Roger and Nintendo, Zeltic, and some of those guys, and just hang out and play video games. We spend so much time talking about video games that I never quite considered the possibility of actually playing video games with some of these people. And that was just a really like wonderful experience. The stage that I showed you in Smash Brothers when we had Santi, one of our fans, visiting, with Mario's Laundry. That was actually a stage Roger and Nintendo had come across like the night before, and they're like, "We have to play this stage." Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably it for me. And then also, of course, getting to see our fans in person, hang out with them, become friends. Like Santi, Santi has become more than just a fan of the channel or a mod. He's become a friend, and that's been really great. We play games together. He's come to visit. We've met up at conventions and playing Smash Brothers early at Best Buy, which was the first time we met him in person. Yeah, it's just it's great. Conman, RDW, or David, another great friendship that we've managed to make over the last 50. Yeah, man, lots of blessings have come from this in a variety of ways. I think a lot of people oh, please excuse me. I think a lot of people when they think about doing this kind of thing are only considering the monetary gain or the career success that can come from doing this kind of stuff. But man, like, everything else is so much more worth it. Like the friends we've gotten to make, the occasions we've gotten to hang out together, and that kind of stuff. It's way more valuable than any of that other monetary type stuff. Like, I didn't know this kind of stuff was going to happen to us when we started doing it, but I'm absolutely elated that it has. Because we've gotten to do some cool stuff with some cool people.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I think people kind of have this idea in their heads that, like, oh, we could be the next ones to either be famous or get a bunch of views and have this be our job. And and there is definitely some of that. Like, I'd rather not have to do some of my day job stuff, and this would be awesome to do full time, but like, ultimately, like, don't do it unless you would do it without getting paid, because there's no guarantees. There's no, I mean, even as we are now, like, it's not like we make money from this, at least not a lot. We do have a Patreon. We have memberships on the channel. We have, people can sub on Twitch and things like that. But it's far from being enough for us to quit our day jobs. And maybe someday we'll be able to build enough. But ultimately, like, I'm not terribly concerned. I'm just really looking forward to seeing what we make, over all this, the time that we know we're going to continue creating and continue podcasting. I even have, a bunch of ideas cooking up in my head for, when I move, and all the things that will be possible when we are near each other and we can produce in the same place as opposed to across the internet.
Yeah, I've had a couple ideas brewing myself, so I anticipate that production's going to ramp up a bit once you're here, and we'll be doing some stuff you guys haven't seen before, which I think is going to be awesome. Excuse me. Welcome, Cool Austin, to the chat, one of our channel members. Thank you so much for supporting us. But this is Nintendo stuff. We've been self-indulgent a little bit on today's episode, but let's get to the meat of the show. It's time for Nintendo to be self-indulgent, and they have been, because over 5 million courses have been uploaded to Super Mario Maker 2 since launch. And that's great. Unsurprising, but great.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like I've played it, and I've played a good chunk, but I have not yet put up a course of my own, and I wonder like how many people have actually like just done what I've done and just played courses as opposed to like making any of their own.
I think there are
So,
way more players than there are makers, just overall.
mhm.
Because I'm more of a player myself. That said, I have uploaded courses before, both in Super Mario Maker 1 and in Mario Maker 2, but I definitely find more joy in playing other people's creations. I do love creating, but I love creating, video and doing things in that realm of media about games. So, you know, I do have a little bit of creative fervor for this kind of stuff, but it's, not so much that I'm going to be able to sit there for 6 or 7 hours and, hash a course out.
Right, right.
Because it does take a long time. And I mean, if it takes a long time, if you really want to put in the effort and make something, that's really unique and that's really successful as a course, you really want to put some time into it. And I wouldn't want to upload a level I'm not proud of. So,
Yeah,
like, I would
yeah.
definitely be sitting there, tweaking, working away at something. And, just takes a lot of time. So it's a lot easier to pick up the game, pop into somebody else's level, have a good time, and, shut it down and go to sleep.
Yeah. They did in a tweet when they were celebrating 5 million courses upload. Um, they did put some notable levels in the tweet, which I have put in the chat if you guys are watching the YouTube version, whether live or after the fact.
Yeah, it's nice to see that Nintendo is curating some user-created content, especially when you consider Nintendo's past in that department.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see this community thriving, and I anticipate Super Mario Maker 2 will get even better when the updates start coming out. GameXplain uploaded a video earlier today, I think, about their top 10 DLC wishes, and that really got me thinking about all the cool stuff that could be coming to Mario Maker, sooner or later. And Andre, my boy, he's on my side. He mentioned the possibility of some Super Mario 64 game themes. I would really love that. He also mentioned Super Mario Brothers 2 and Super Mario Land 2. Those are the three styles that I think people are like looking at when they see that empty space in the extra game styles. And I think the first time we get an update to Super Mario Maker 2, it'll be game styles, or a new game style plus the Friends multiplayer versus. I think that's why we haven't seen that yet. It'll just come
Okay.
all come together. But that's in the future, hopefully in the next couple months before the end of the year. But also coming out before the end of the year is a pair of neon green Joy-Cons. Is this exclusive to Best Buy? Or no, Best Buy put up the listing. That's why we know about it.
Yeah, I was about to say it probably wouldn't be exclusive, but yeah, having a set of, for those who like the symmetrical sets, who don't want two different colors, it's cool that we're getting more of those.
It's also
Especially,
probably tying into Luigi's Mansion 3, which
Mhm.
comes out like 4 days afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, also to note, like the orange and purple set kind of fits as well into that theme, being
Oh,
kind
that's
of
true.
Halloween colors.
So you have a variety of color choices for your Halloween Luigi's Mansion Nintendo Switch fix.
See, now that they've released the neon green as like a set, I want the pink as a set, because I mean, I really wanted the set of the green and pink, but now that they're just releasing, just two of the same color, just give me two of the pink, because that
Oh,
might
is
have
this
to
the
be
same
the
green
set
from
that
the
I finally
Splatoon pair?
purchase. I think so. It looks
Okay.
like the same.
I forgot all about that. I just assumed this was a brand new color.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, this is, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same. It's just, again, it's just both the left and the right as opposed to one or the other. Which, I mean, they've released both before. They had, the green and pink on the Splatoon like special edition Switch. And then they had the opposites
at
for
retail.
at retail for just the Joy Cons.
Okay.
So, and the fact that I was considering at some point, like, oh, if I buy like two different sets to get two of the same colors, now that they're being like, oh, okay, so here's two of the same color, in green. Obviously, we got yellow, a neon yellow at some point when they released Arms.
Yep, we got a pair of neon
So
yellow.
yeah, now they just need pink because that would be my thing. The only other ones I'm thinking of that I would really love are those kind of like deeper red
From the
pair.
Mario Odyssey
Yeah,
set. Yeah.
that would be really cool to get as well.
Speaking of new Switch, the new Nintendo Switch is out at retail, at the very least in Australia. Has it hit the US yet?
I'm not sure.
If you're,
I would imagine that like it'll probably start rolling out if it hasn't.
yeah.
Because it wasn't like there was a hard release date. They were just like, okay, these are the ones we're rolling out and producing now.
So
Which,
if you don't have a Switch yet and you want to get one and get get the standard model and not the Switch Lite, if you go out to find one, you'll find the new Switch models in a new red colored box rather than the old box design. So that's how you can tell the difference between the two if you want to buy one now. So just keep an eye out for that. And really, the only benefit we've learned from a bunch of tests that YouTube channels such as Game Explain have done, the only real benefit that you're going to get is the extended battery life. That is the core reason that they're doing this with the new efficient version of the Tegra X1 CPU. So yeah, I think Game Explain did a test with Breath of the Wild running at max settings, and it died at like 4.5 hours. But that's with everything maxed out, volume, brightness, all that stuff. So if you're playing at like minimum brightness or middle brightness and maybe lower volume or maybe using headphones, you can expect, I think they maxed it out at 6.5 hours for Breath of the Wild, which is almost double, isn't it? Because I think
yeah,
it's
that's
3.5 right now.
that's pretty good. Yeah, just adding at least another hour at full, you know, full brightness and all that other stuff. So this will give you a little bit more play time. And for something like Breath of the Wild, that might be that extra hour is going to go a long way, especially if it was at 3.5 hours and that percentage increase is pretty significant.
And I think if you're playing like a low-powered game or maybe like an indie game or something like that, something that's only rendering in 2D, you can get up to like 9 or possibly even 10 hours of game time, which is fantastic for the Switch.
Yeah.
This is a
really
significant bump. And I guess we can tie this in here. We don't have the story here per se, but there was news again from the Wall Street Journal. They seem to always be the organization that talks about new Switch models before anyone else. But they've talked with a manufacturer. Logan, I don't know if you can find this while I bring it up because I can't remember the manufacturer's name. But they're going to be supplying their screens for new Nintendo Switch revisions that would presumably come out, next year or beyond. And I think they're like supposed to be a little sturdier, so maybe you wouldn't scratch your screen if you put it in the dock a little too carelessly. And that just brings up support for the idea of a new Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch Pro or that kind of thing. I think you and I are pretty much in agreement that a Switch revision, like a Model 2 Power-Up Edition, is going to happen at some point.
Yeah, again, it seems in line with the market. It's in line with Nintendo, already having done this before.
Hmm.
Specifically, the most recent, would be like the new Nintendo 3DS, which is upgraded from the Nintendo 3DS, which had its own exclusive games that only ran on the new Nintendo 3DS. Um, so yeah, this is it's not it wouldn't be surprising at this point. Like, um, it's coming down the line. We don't even need rumors. We know that it's going to be happening at some point. If it doesn't, I think that's like the more odd outcome as opposed to it actually coming up, because I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it will.
yeah, it's an inevitability. Thanos standing there getting ready to snap his fingers. I am inevitable. Uh, Next up, more Fire Emblem Three Houses news. In Japan, it has sold through, what is it, 80% of its initial shipment,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for Fire Emblem. I mean, Fire Emblem always does fairly well in Japan, and it's been doing fairly well here in the States too. But it's just great overall for Fire Emblem Three Houses because this game is getting reviewed incredibly well across the board from a critical perspective, and people are buying the game. And those are the two things you want to happen when you release a video game. So this is great news. I love Fire Emblem Three Houses. I think it's fantastic. I'm just gonna go out and say it's the best game in the series, bar none. It's really good. So, congrats to Fire Emblem Three Houses. Uh, it deserves it. That's all there really is to say about it.
Yeah, I can't wait to play it at all. I'll keep saying that until I finally get the chance to play it, because I'm still very, very much anxious to get my hands on it.
You're gonna have your time, Logan, and it's gonna be a good time because it's great. I'm like at the halfway point in the story, and I'm at like 35 hours of gameplay. That's
Mhm.
nuts. This is long for Fire Emblem, and it's only one of three, possibly four routes. That's so much gameplay.
That's a lot.
Yeah, not including the DLC that's coming out later this year.
Mhm.
Uh, in more record news, we've got some statistics from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at EVO. EVO was last weekend. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was the most entered game this year at EVO. It closed out the show at over 3,400 entrants. It was also the largest Super Smash Bros. Anything tournament ever in history. It was the biggest one ever, which is great news for Ultimate, great news for the competitive scene. But in addition to that, it smashed an EVO record during the broadcast, setting the highest peak viewership at 279,000 people. Over 250,000 people were watching Smash Ultimate Finals. That's incredible. That's,
A lot of people.
I mean, obviously it doesn't compare to something like the NFL or anything like that, but when you
Mhm.
consider what Smash is and, fighting game tournaments and that kind of stuff in esports, this is great. This is a huge milestone for fighting games, huge milestone for Smash Brothers, and hopefully that just continues to grow over the years because Smash Brothers in particular in the group of fighting games does not make a lot of money in terms of, prize money. Uh, Street Fighter and games like that are going to make more. Fortnite's going to make more. League of Legends and Dota are going to make way more. We want to kind of bring that up to parity so that Smash players can actually make a profit off of what they do.
Yeah.
A lot of these
I mean,
players. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say the other great thing I'll say surrounding just how well Ultimate is doing by like pretty much any metric is the fact that I don't see a lot of melee naysayers around. Like, I just don't. It's not, especially
Because they're
during like the
playing
Wii.
Ultimate.
Yeah, like we finally got to the point where people are, it's like, oh wow, we'd rather be playing the newest game rather than just, oh, Melee's the best, Melee's the best, Melee's the best. So,
And of course, those people aren't going to stop playing Melee, and they shouldn't, because that's their game. But it's nice to see like at this point in time where like both communities are just crossing over. Because that's what Smash is. It's the greatest crossover in history. So obviously our communities should be crossing over too. It's great to see players like Hungrybox and Leffen and Armada playing Ultimate. I mean, Armada straight up quit Melee altogether. Obviously, it was for different reasons than Ultimate being a new game. But he's still playing Ultimate competitively. That says a lot. So the community likes this game. They want to see it do well, and that makes me happy because it's been weird being on the other side of this fight all these years between the two communities. Yeah. And I was never like angry at Melee folks or anything because I like Melee too. It's just there's no reason to battle over it. It's all the same game franchise. But
well, I mean, it was there, but slowly but surely, it's slowly dying out, and probably makes both the games better for it too.
Yeah. A little sad to not see Melee at EVO, but it was nice to see Ultimate take center stage for once.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on to a little bit more third-party news, Hello Games is interested in bringing, excuse me, I almost said No More Heroes, No Man's Sky to Nintendo Switch. And after the announcement of The Outer Worlds coming to Nintendo Switch, this just makes it sound more feasible to me.
Yeah, and it's not like No Man's Sky is, all that intensive visually. So I think this would definitely be plausible. And if they did, like that game has already come so far, like on the 14th, so in like 3 days, we're getting another huge update for No Man's Sky, including VR support. So it's fact
becoming
that
an MMO at that update, basically.
Yeah. So the fact that they're talking about, the possibility of putting it on the Switch, I think it's great because in a lot of ways it can have a lot of, new life to it.
It'd also be kind of neat.
Crossplay.
Specifically with crossplay. I was also going to mention it'd be kind of neat if we got some Nintendo crossover content. Maybe like some Nintendo skins for your ships, or maybe an R-Wing as a purchasable ship as well. Just,
Ooh, that would be cool.
Kind of fun stuff like that. And maybe have it so that when you're doing cross multiplayer, that those items just look like different things to other people on other consoles to avoid those kinds of problems. I mean, either whether they do that or not has no bearing on whether or not I'd like this game to be on Switch, because of course I would. No Man's Sky has had quite the interesting history, as I know many of you probably know. But it's in a place now where people celebrate this game, and they celebrate all of the work that's gone into it, and they celebrate the company for taking the effort and time to turn it into the game they initially promised. When I bought No Man's Sky on day one, I was incredibly agitated and disappointed with the game that popped out. Here we are years later, and I'm happy to own No Man's Sky, because now when I want to have that feeling of space adventure, go to space with some friends and hang out, I can do that. That's all I wanted in the first place. And now we get to do it on a massively multiplayer scale, which is really exciting.
And in virtual reality. I've already had discussions with my brother about, hopping into No Man's Sky on the 14th once it comes out.
The only regret I have about not having a Vive anymore is not being able to play that game in VR.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'd be exciting. Next up, a little bit, more disappointing news is that Capcom is actually pulling DuckTales Remastered from all digital storefronts. In fact, they have already. This game was released physically, though. We should mention that. It's available physically on Wii U, PS4, and I think Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wanted it on your Switch, I think the time is up. Was it out on Switch? Did they ever port it?
I don't think they did. I don't think it ever came,
I'm gonna take a look.
which is disappointing because this is a game that I always wanted to get back to, especially because the original is so highly praised. And I think one of the more like important things to put out there is that like this is just the reality of like digital games. You
Yeah,
know, there might be something that comes around which makes it not available, and not that this isn't the first time that this has happened, but as the years go on and it happens more and more, it becomes increasingly clear that like we might be missing out on a lot of things that are currently available. Um, until something else changes. But
I should also
don't
quickly
know
correct
exactly
myself.
what
It's
that would be.
PS3 and Xbox 360.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree. It's so weird too when you consider that digital storefronts are in a way supposed to keep games preservation easy. These games are
Mhm.
available digitally, so they'll always be somewhere. But not if you take them off the stores. There's a limited
Yeah.
selection of these available physically, and now the rarity of those are going to go way up.
Yeah, and especially only being available on, previous generation consoles. Um like, this is going to be really really hard to play unless you've already bought it. And like there's a part of me that had wished that I had had the money to buy it, on PC or something like that before it left, but I didn't.
Yeah, it
So
was like down to like $4, I think, like dirt cheap.
yeah.
And what's sad is I had this game on Wii U digitally, but I don't have my Wii U anymore, and my Wii
Mhm.
U was wiped, which means that even if I could log into the digital storefront or the eShop, I don't think I could re-download the game again,
Right.
and that's just sad. Uh, I don't know if they've given a reason that it's gone, but I'm going to assume it's a music licensing problem. That seems to always be the
Yeah.
killer. But, that's the way it goes, and you hate to see it happen.
Yeah, unless there was a way that you could just, fix that system. And certainly there are ways that, we could make things better and restructure things, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, not with, all these companies looking to get a buck or two.
Hmm.
And once that licensing goes up, and then it's the question of you know, would Capcom and WayForward put in the effort to port these games and renew the licensing to put these games on newer consoles, and put them out again? But chances are that they probably don't see enough money in it to actually, go through the process of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to cost them more in licensing fees than they would make in profit to sell the game, that's a lose lose.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. That said, we do have physical copies out there, and we have the means of backing those up to digital formats. So it's not like the game is gone forever. It's just in terms of an accessibility standpoint, it's going to be hard to get your hands on if you actually wanted to play it.
Mhm.
Uh, but there is better news. We did get a trailer for Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD, and I have to say I'm kind of excited about this. I don't know where you stand because you're more of a Monkey Ball guy than I am.
Yeah, this was a game that came out, pretty soon after Super Monkey Ball 2 on the GameCube. I know that there were other things about this game, like they have boss battles and such. I just hope that I'm not limited to motion controls. That's the only thing. I do plan on buying this game at some point because I want Monkey Ball on my Switch real bad. Um, so I think this was a pretty solid entry in the series, but it was about the point. that it kind of started to fall off, and people weren't so um, excited for it afterwards, because I think it got pretty frequent releases afterwards, and it's not like they did a lot of new things with the gameplay release after release. So I'm hoping that this does well, and I'm hoping that they can renew the series, because I think the fact that this series really isn't getting any new significant releases is pretty sad.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'll be willing to give it a shot. I'm going to guess that it will have analog control or traditional controls in the game because, it's releasing on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam, and, motion controls aren't a priority on those systems.
yeah.
I did hear that the original game had like 50 mini games and that the vast majority of them were terrible, but that this version is only going to have like 6, 7, or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd presume that would be to then make them good mini games.
Yeah. Because I remember like Super Monkey Ball 2 had like 10 mini games, and there was not all of them were amazing, but there was a few of them that were really solid. Um, like Monkey Target and Monkey Billiards. I enjoyed Monkey Race. But there were like other ones that kind of felt just tacked on, just kind of something to fill out. So having like 50 mini games, I can't imagine that all of them would have been that well thought out.
Right. And obviously it was just like motion control fodder, waggle fodder.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fly these days. Some interesting news for Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on Switch and 3DS collectively has sold over 3.2 million units. People were saying that Monster Hunter World gave these games no reason to exist, and clearly the sales numbers say otherwise.
Yeah.
Doesn't compare to Monster Hunter World, but 3 million is still a lot.
Long shot. Yeah.
So I don't think this is the end of Monster Hunter on Nintendo platforms. I think Nintendo Switch will get its own kind of iteration of Monster Hunter going forward, and I think we're fairly close to seeing that come true. Shouldn't be much longer before Capcom has a new Mon-Hun to throw at us. We have Iceborne coming out, so I figure in the next year or two, Capcom will have some kind of Monster Hunter something to put on Switch.
Yeah, I mean it's a big platform, especially for kind of mobile and playing locally, and we know that that's still huge in Japan. So I imagine there's still a lot of money to be made on the platform.
Yeah. Sega is set to show off a AAA game at Gamescom's, what are they calling the presentation? They have a Monday afternoon presentation that I believe is put together by Jeff Keighley, and several companies are revealing games during the presentation, and Sega has just outwardly said that it will be a AAA game that hasn't been revealed yet. So what could this be? Is it Bayonetta? Does Sega still work with Bayonetta?
I don't think so. I think that's mostly Nintendo.
That was just
so I'm not sure where the
first game?
licensing actually is at. Sega still has like a hand in that. And the question is, it's like, okay, it's an all new AAA game. So does that mean is it something that is in a pre-existing series, or is this a brand new series altogether? Because I don't know.
I think they said something about Sonic coming back with a full like 3D entry 2020 or something like that, or 2021. So there's a possibility it could be Sonic, but because they said that, I am more inclined to think it's something else because we're still kind of far away.
I'm a dreamer, okay, and there are some dormant Sega properties that I would love to see come back.
I already know where you're going with this.
really make a return. So I'm gonna make a crazy prediction and say this is a sequel to Skies of Arcadia. I don't know. I just have a really good feeling. Like my heart, it feels very connected to this announcement. It's one of the reasons I threw it in here. I'm like, this is it. This is the time. Skies of Arcadia 2. It's on its way. Come on, baby. You want to do it, Sega, and you know that you could really turn it around and make it into something really new and special while still, maintaining the beauty of the original game.
I have a possibility in mind being a new entry in the Phantasy Star series, because the game right now is like what, Phantasy Star Online 2, like the actual online game. But it's been a while since we've had like a console Phantasy Star game, so I think that's a possibility for a release. Can't say Shenmue because that game was announced already and is still in development.
Yeah,
Could it be
I'm gonna go
Virtua
ahead and
Fighter?
say you're wrong because I don't want to believe it's anything other than a sequel to Skies of Arcadia.
Hey, I'm not saying
So
what it's going
there's
to
my
be. I'm just
justification.
throwing out possibilities.
I think your head's like too in the clouds. I think it's totally unrealistic.
It's going to be a new Crazy Taxi. uh, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this list of Sega properties, and there are not a ton of standouts to me that aren't like, a Sonic or, a Super Monkey Ball or, things like that, or Virtua Fighter.
Yeah.
And Virtua Fighter hasn't had a release since 2012, so I don't know if it would be that.
Yeah. Again, but there might be the possibility that this is something all brand new,
Yeah, for sure.
So
Or it's a new entry in the Seaman franchise.
oh man, what a return that would be.
They give you a new
Wow.
microphone accessory. Oh my god.
It would be so bad unless they made it like amazing.
Hey, from what I understand, the games are actually amazing, just in not the conventional ways you anticipate. Yeah. Not a lot of opportunities or a lot of options for games from series that we know. So, I'm going to go out and say I think it will be a new property. And maybe it's not Skies of Arcadia, but it's Skies of Terabithia.
Oh god, that sounds awful.
Yeah, so that's really it for first and third party news. In terms of games we've been playing, I've just been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I don't really have much more to say without getting into spoiler territory, because there is a lot to spoil for Fire Emblem Three Houses.
I mean, other than playing like a ton of Beat Saber, which my body is just wore out right now. Like I've been trying to play, and it's like one of those things like, oh, there it is, and my arm can't quite get up there fast enough, just because I'm like, oh no. But I did start a new file on master mode for Breath of the Wild, like 20 minutes before we started. So I'll probably get back to that.
Oh, nice. Getting prepared for Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah, man, that game just feels so good. It's been long enough since I've played it, so I think it'll be just fresh enough where it's a really enjoyable experience.
For sure. And if I were you people, I would start getting prepared for a Nintendo Direct. I think we're no more than 6 weeks away from the next one coming. Because we have a fall Direct usually, and I don't anticipate it would be in October because they want to focus on Luigi's Mansion. And we're kind of in the midst of a lull right now. We've got Astral Chain coming out at the end of the month, and then we have September, which is a big old month, but for all platforms. We got Monster Hunter Iceborne, Borderlands 3, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening at the end of that month. So I think they're going to want to try and drop this direct somewhere in the midst of some emptiness, you know? So I anticipate in the next 5 to 6 weeks we'll probably have a direct. So maybe we'll throw out some predictions soon.
I hope you're right, because it's always exciting.
Yeah, and it's been a while, you know? We haven't really had anything since E3. And that was at the beginning of June. We're in the middle of August.
Oh, boy.
We have the next Smash Brothers fighter to learn about, you know? Because Banjo could drop, you know, sometime in September or October. Probably in October. But who knows?
Oh, imagine playing as Banjo.
Santi, I am freaking missing number 50. Are you kidding me? Sorry, man. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But it's still going to be available here on YouTube and on your favorite podcast sources like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. Anywhere where you like to listen to your podcast, we are available. But if you like us a lot, you might want to check us out on Anchor.fm because you can support the show directly by following us there, subscribing to the show, or favoriting the podcast, I think is what they call it there. If you want to go over to iTunes and rate our podcast, that would be awesome. If you could rate us 5 stars, if you really like what we do here, that's awesome. We really appreciate that. And if you're new here to the YouTube channel, make sure to like the video and subscribe to find out when we're doing our next episode of Nintendo Stuff, as well as all the other cool stuff that we do. And if you want to help support the show outside of those areas, you can join our membership program here on YouTube. You can donate to our Patreon. Lots of ways to help support the show. You can do it however you want, or if you want to do it at all, that's fine too. We're just glad you're here. Keep up the conversation with us over on Twitter. You can follow me at Babababs. You can follow Logan at LoggyDubs. And if you want to talk to us and mutual fans and all that cool stuff, you can join our Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below. We like playing games together. Lots of Smash Brothers happens. There's a lot of Monster Hunter World going on right now. Getting ready for Monster Hunter World Iceborne coming out in a couple weeks because we'll be playing a lot of that. So yeah, if you want to get in on the action, make sure to join the Discord server. And I think that's everything. I think that's all I've got. So make sure to join us next week on the next episode of Nintendo Stuff. This is number 51. It's the beginning of a new era of Nintendo Stuff. Number 51. We're on the road to 100 now, aren't we?
So close.
That's so weird.
We're closer than we were when we started.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will see you next time. Don't break your backs. Break in the games. But for now, break time is over.
We love you.